Okay, Alister.
Hello, Jan. What a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, Alister. First of all, thank you very much for your agreement to come to Łódź to see how the city of Łódź is developing.
Yes.
What are the challenges? What are the chances? What are the important aspects for the 21st century for the city in transition? Because as you could imagine, that city was industrially based and have a really difficult time after the collapse of the industry during the transition time.
Yes.
That is great pleasure to have you in Łódź, and please let me know your first feeling, how you see the Łódź after just 2 days of joint tour.
Yes. Well, thank you very much, Jan. With a visit to Łódź, I mean, I've noticed, some real contrasts. It's absolutely clear, exactly as you just said, there has been a real history. A lot has gone on, and it's not often you come to a place that you can see what has gone on and the new, but there's a lot of old and very, very old interspersed right next to the new. But it's absolutely crystal clear that with the young, vibrant student population, the aspirations of the tech businesses that are coming here, that I believe that more will follow. There's great potential. I think the city will need to be very innovative in its approach in attracting people, because there's a lot of competition worldwide for people to attract youth, technology, and so on and so forth. But you really do have something intangible here. You can feel that there's a real history. There's something to build on. There's a lot that's gone on before. There's a reason why Łódź is the way it is. And I think that if I was to say to someone, when you land or you arrive in Łódź, don't be surprised if you see some really run-down old buildings. I don't just mean old in the sense of old, but quite dilapidated. But then you will see some beautiful examples of architecture, both inside and out. And then you will see absolutely beautiful modern buildings. And even those who don't like modern buildings, if you can see what has been done to fit in next to a refurbishment of a big industrial site, a big textile factory, and that was the history of Łódź, the textiles.
Yeah.
And Manufactura, what they've done on the shopping side, the leisure side, how the museum is so interesting, Mr. Poznański. It's not often that you get to see everything such as that in one go.
I think that there are two important points to understand the city at all, because next year we have a 600th anniversary of the city rights given to the small village in the middle of nowhere, we could say. It was like the village between the forest and not too much happens until the 1821, where the industrial opportunities was started due to the special economic zone created here. But for me, the major difference of the economic zone existing today that in those times the people who create this special economic zone especially attract the skilled people and bring the people from the nearly whole Europe. You could imagine that from 600 inhabitants, just in 100 years, the city was grow up to 600,000 inhabitants. That was like the most blooming city in this part of the world. There is a comparable with the Manchester, comparable to Barcelona, comparable to Chicago as a growing phase due to the special condition attract the people coming here,
Yes.
developing the businesses, and finally we could say the going to the different buildings just is still possible to feel the entrepreneurial and founder spirit, and that is the things for me that the city still have this entrepreneurial spirit, and there is a crucial thing that changing the city in the past and hope that change the city in the future.
Yes, I absolutely agree. And by way of comparison, so I have lived. I've lived in Berlin, and I lived there in sort of mid 2000 and to 2013, and so I really saw that develop. And I'd known how it had developed just prior to that, after the wall came down. In fact, with some Polish friends of mine who told me all about it. I see the same opportunities here, because there was a mix of populations. In Berlin, for example, you had a large historic Russian population. You had the same here. You obviously had a German population, and obviously have a German population in Berlin. And I think you've got an interesting mix, and I think that goes for the future as well. I think that the city will be prepared, or should be prepared, to sort of welcome with open arms positive people from, they can be different backgrounds, different countries, who want to come here. I also believe that with what very sadly happened with the Jewish community, I think there's a real opportunity to bring back the Jewish entrepreneurs, both secular, non-secular, also to Finland. I think there's a real opportunity, and I think that is happening and will happen. And I think that is, people like living in cosmopolitan cities, and I think that is the way forward. And I believe that has happened here, is happening, and can happen a great deal more. I think there can be a great deal done, and to attract both the young to come here and people to come back and refurbish the city. I think there can be some innovative schemes to try and encourage, whether it's Polish workers on the one hand, who we know from being in England, and I've lived in Germany, are some of the best workers there are, to come back and really incentivize that they are almost given on amazing terms some of these buildings to work with and end up with something tangible. And I think that needs to happen with young people as well. They don't want a life of generation rent. They want something. So whether it's a fractional ownership scheme or something that the city does as a pilot, I think there's a real opportunity to try something here.
Yeah, that's. I think for me that there is probably only one city in Europe now, probably with such prospectus opportunity for young people to participate in transition.
Yes.
Because we could say, as we see on the movie at the cinematography museum, the Promised Land, that was blooming numbers of people going through the streets, doing the job, looking for the prospects. Afterwards, you see how the we could say kingdom of Poznański was grow step by step, but in the one generation time.
Yes.
That was in the past, we could say, the place, giving the opportunity, as you said, for the people with the willing to work hardly, willing to do and change their life, and willing to also build the better future for not only themselves but also the family.
Yes.
And for me now, with the opportunities we have, there is only the city in the Europe when there still is a lot to do in the center of the city, because as you know, London and other places, most of the plots are occupied.
Yes.
It's so difficult to build something new or to introduce something new in such cities.
Yes.
There is a long procedure, accumulation of wealth and so on. Here there are so much open spaces as we see, and as we are in the Obiecana Cafe, there is a Promise Cafe that means also related to the Promised Land of Wajda movie.
Yes.
That's still part of the area was re-established here after the Geyer's, let's say, prosperity time, after the, let's say, big production during the Soviet time in Poland after the Second World War. Now the area is changing, and the gardens of Geyers, which starting to build Ogrody Gejera, as we see from the different opportunities, they are the place that is so open spaces that could be filled with the good ideas. Not only for the real estate, but mostly how to develop the future on the next generations.
You've almost got, in certain areas, you've got a blank canvas to really do things. And coming back to what you were saying, it was very clear, one, in the textile museum in Manufacture, the history of the hard workers in the place and what they went through, and what has been done, the legacy that is there today. And equally in the film museum, I mean, Poland's got a rich film history. I was very, very impressed with the inside of that building, but I was very impressed to hear one thing from you, and that was how the man behind it, who owned it, Karol Schreiber, he really had an ethos of doing things for the people. And I think that is something that needs not to be forgotten and done again today, because if you give people the tools, the ability to help themselves and do things, they will do it. The secret is to let them know that they're doing it for themselves, they're doing it for the benefit of a community, and they will end up somehow owning the rights to that they can have themselves and pass on to others. Because the one thing I've learned in my life, and I've lived in the Far East, I've lived in Africa, I've lived all around the world, and I've been in Europe, I've lived in Paris, I've lived in London, I've lived in Berlin, Sweden and Spain. The one thing that's important is that people need to feel that they're experiencing things, they are going to different places and trying things and doing things and learning, but they need to feel, I believe, that they end up with some bricks and mortar for themselves. And I think that's an opportunity here. In London, you're quite right, it's full, if you like, it's done, it's developed. And the same with many other European cities. You're absolutely right that Łódź is in that place now where it has got the opportunity, especially with the 600 years coming. And there's one thing I can say, they don't make land anymore. But the time is now to do something with it. The time is not to let it just drift and nothing happens with the land. There's a population that exists now on the face of this earth, and they're here, and they maybe have connection to here or want to come here. You need to do something for them now. It'll take care. What happens for those in the future will take care of itself. But you need to do something bold and innovative and radical to incentivize and attract people here now. That's the approach, not just copying other people. You need to try, and I believe you can, do some very great stuff here, because what we've seen is what is possible here. And it's really impressive, the standard of buildings and refurbishment of listed buildings here and the modern fitting in. Absolutely, really impressive. With what has been done, it's been done to a very high standard. And and you find what I like about visiting here, and I think it'd be a great place to visit for people to fly for a weekend, for example, is that it's an interesting place. Just walking around, you discover things. And when you took me, we went to we were going to pop into a little studio that does some filming. There was someone dancing, there was an open fireplace, there was art going in the back, there was a cinema upstairs where people were celebrating and watching Poland, who fortunately beat Saudi Arabia. I mean, it was really the right sort of community in a beautiful building with beautiful beams, and you find these little treasures, if you like. You don't get that everywhere. You get sometimes a bit boring standard, or there's couple of impressive buildings in a place, but it feels not real and authentic. This place feels very real and authentic, and I think people who come here can feel that they participated in the change, in the evolvement of Łódź. That is the opportunity now, and especially with the 600 years celebration coming up next year.
Yeah, that's as we discussed during our tour, that today we could say that not the country but the cities just compete for the minds and for the people, for citizens, which are willing to be part of the society and willing to pay the taxes, because finally for having improvement in the infrastructure, in the surroundings, improvement of the quality of life and the well-being of the people, is important that cities growing from the economical point of view and personal economical point of view, because so important is still have the good job, good work, or be entrepreneur and create the startups which will be successful, maybe for 5, 10, 20, 50, maybe 100 people. It's not the question to go directly to be unicorns. It's a question to be successful in the different levels, but the levels that succeed, the personal success, and give the opportunity to pay the invoices and also to pay the cost of living. And from these things, there is also important and interesting lessons I see, and that we discuss also with our colleague Nicholas. That today most of the technological changes in the big corporates just releasing people from the job and they starting being unemployed. That only the new creativity, startups, innovations create the future jobs and creates the jobs not only for the entrepreneurs and founders, but also for the whole community which is belongs, and creating the ecosystem which supporting the potential establishing and grow of the companies, the startups, on the tech and the future needs. Because the world is changing. I think we both have experience that we not expect in our childhood what will change in the world. That I think there is so many technological changes that I remember that even at the primary school there was not any calculation done electronically. Now that everyone's have let's say computer machines in the mobile phones, and there are the change no one expected, and the future is required the new technologies and the new inventions. And there is a aspect also to think what will be the future prospectus, we could say sectors that should be explored and should be build the capacity for people to elaborate the new startups and new future.
Well, you're absolutely right. There's certainly a lot of change, and that's going to continue. But I think people need to realize you can't live in a virtual world. People need people. They need to interact with people. But they need physical space to exist in during the day. It's one thing having wonderful places for them to work and exist in labs, but they need to feel it's more than that. It's something for them. It's not just this company that they may work with for a while, and especially as working is going to be hybrid, there needs to be something for them, at the night time, overnight. And I'm not just talking about the nightlife and bars, which there are great ones here, but it needs to be, they need to feel they've got a roof over their head. And even if they go away and travel the world and work in various places, fine. It would be clever if they somehow owned a piece of, and there was a mechanism for them owning a piece of real estate themselves here in Łódź. And if they do that, then you suddenly create something. Now, I don't think it should just be about attracting tech and so on and so forth. I think it should also be about attracting, skilled, workers who have a trade, a craft, plumbers, electricians, and so on. And they should all coexist, but they should all have at least a minimum standard and feel we're part of this fabric of this place. We can go here, I can go there. A BBC reporter, a friend of mine, once many years ago, and we were chatting about how I've lived in the third world and so on. He said, there's not much difference between us and the very, very super rich here, because they might have a private house and a private pool and a private yacht. I can go to the public pool, I can still have a roof over my head, I can do this. And that is absolutely right. It's just in our minds that we sort of attribute so much to our status and what we have and so on and so forth. But the reality is you need to be able to feel safe and thrive and so on. There's a certain level you need. And I think there's a real opportunity in Łódź to provide that for people, for a range of people. When back in '95, I was a founder member of Soho House, the group, and this was a sort of a creative for musicians, actors, famous people, and a range of people, and I was member number 64. And our whole ethos was to attract a range of people to that, and it didn't matter who you were. In those days, we would have Tom Cruise sitting there on the next table, and it didn't matter. Egos were left at the door. And people would just sit, and there'd be a club table where you would just sit down and chat next to everyone. Just the rule you had was that you don't talk, you respect confidentiality, which I believe is very important. And I think it's that ethos, because everyone, everyone's time and their friendship time is as valuable as someone else's. And it's and equally, they mustn't be made to feel maybe because I'm not a huge tech expert or can write code in C++, that I'm of no interest. No, nonsense. I think you need a bit of everyone, and I think we learned that in the pandemic, where if we hadn't had the lubrication, the oil of our wheels, if you like, of all the frontline workers in healthcare, emergency services, but delivery and logistics and so on. Everyone needs everyone. So I think it's very important that you make an environment where everyone can fit in and respect, and at least feel, yes, it's important. Everyone, you'll always need a plumber. And it's jolly hard to do. I know I've worked and done real estate and again had clever people around me and great others and assembled a portfolio of over 30,000 flats in Berlin and across Germany from nothing, that then was taken over by other funds. And I know what it's like. You get a range of people with skills to do it, and you encourage others to get the best out of them. You certainly can't do everything yourself. You need good people around you. And it's the same for communities to thrive. You need a range of people and good people around you who live, harmoniously and encourage each other. And I think that is going on here and could go on even more. But we've got sort of some ideas about that we can discuss another time. But
I think that the most important message is coming for me. That important is that finds the way there is a prospectus development, not only for programmers, not only for let's say IT people, not only the let's say medical doctors or other very highly specialized people, but there is also a space during the transition of the city for all of the physical skills needed to fix the old buildings, to rebuild them, to prepare for the next generation, to fix all of the electric things, to make the new furniture and so on. And there is a really very important that is not only that there is a for high educated people environment, but there is an environment which requires a lot of skills and that's give the opportunities for also the people that just coming here with the special skills which are needed for solve and create the proper ecosystem. That's I think is one of the very interesting and important aspects that should be considered and even incorporated into the educational system, because some of those people maybe today are let's say former farmers somewhere in the middle of Ukraine or other eastern countries, and they could adopt here to find the job in the proper ecosystem that fits their skills, and there is the crucial things.
And especially you mentioned Ukraine, which is I'm very glad you did, because it has to be acknowledged that what Poland has done in helping 2 million Ukrainians to come here, and that was to a great extent organized by people just themselves with social media saying, I've got an empty space but I need some beds and mattresses to put in, and everyone collectively helping each other. And it's that ethos that I think is in Poland that has been proved possible, and I think that can be built on. And I believe also in terms of talking about culture and so on and so forth, I don't think you have to be just an educated person to appreciate, understand culture. It's a bit like art. you view it and you'll get a different impression of it. You might just think that's a bit of an interesting painting, or no, my daughter could paint far better than that. And both are valid. Both are valid points of view. But equally, what I think is with the museums here and the culture, everyone can appreciate culture and learn something from it. Just triggered, oh, so goodness me, that went on before. And that is here in abundance here. And just in a short time, I've been amazed by what I've seen in the museums. And I'm certainly no massive culture vulture expert myself. And I really found it very stimulating and inspiring. And it makes you want to think, how can we facilitate more of this and for others?
Yeah.
Because really that's what it's about. When you look at the past and the photos of people in the past and some of what they went through, so we can all be here today in the way that we are, I think it's very important that we do that for the future. We don't know exactly how it'll turn out, but we need to help. We need to have, everyone needs hope. And that's why you need to say, okay, for the people here and now, it's not just about the future. We want to do something for you, because then we know you will do something for the next generation. And I think that if you get different groups of people here who all they might be slightly different in backgrounds, but they will integrate. There'll be cross fertilization, if you like, and that is how you make things happen, and interesting things happen from people in the environment. The environment stimulates. That will never happen just from a Zoom call alone or a virtual reality. It just won't. There'll be fun and there'll be lots of things that can be done, don't get me wrong, but I still believe you need physical spaces that people can walk around, look at, talk, interact, for their home life and day life, night life, sleeping life.
As you said, that it's really difficult to live in the virtual reality home, because you have just glasses. But when the wind is coming, when the rain is coming, or snow, that you need something real that will protect you, as in the past and past generation. And that's the real things that need to surrounding us and give us services needed. We all need the good mobility between different places in the city, just for job or for fun, or to get the services like healthcare or others. From the other hand, we also need something real that is inspiring us, not only from the past, but also the new projects that could inspire the other generation. And for me, as example, we see the Manufactura was those projects which starts the belief in the red bricks in Łódź.
Yes.
Because the people starting see over the globe there is a big potential in the post-industrial areas with the red bricks to convert them into the very interesting place.
Yes.
That similar number of jobs is created like in the past, and that is so important, the job creations for our society, that which afterwards could fulfill the daily life and also to pay the taxes for improve the infrastructure and city service which all of the community members need.
Yes. I mean, I think you're absolutely right. And one of the things, I think people need to be creative. If there's a traffic problem, then you need to be creative about how you deal with it. It might be, okay, so we'll say on one day of the week these number plates can go in and those can't, or we'll make parking free for these places and these places, but not on that day, or we will change the restrictions here. We will allow parking, and we will allow students to have their cars, but equally we will provide highly subsidized, if not free, transport at certain times of the day to bring them in for the nightlife and the cities and the bars or studying. You have to make stuff easier and remove red tape. It takes too much time, I've learnt, to administer and be too bureaucratic. And I've noticed that in the past, having living in Germany, they have a very regimented way and they like to be very bureaucratic, but it just is bureaucracy for the sake of it. And I think you need to get away from some of that. You need to be pragmatic and practical. It's absolutely needed in certain very populated, built-up places and so on and so forth. But where you have somewhere that is a blank canvas, you can have the bravery to have, let's have a bit of freedom of expression, let's try something different. Let's do it, we'll call this a pilot here. Let's see what works best. Until you do something, you never know. But if you don't do anything, all that just happens is status quo, and you'll end up with lots of tracts of dilapidated buildings where the opportunities will be missed, and people will then leave and go the other way. And that is what you have to watch out for. You can't be complacent, think, well, just because we've done manufactura, no, we need mini manufacturers. We need more stuff doing. Otherwise, people will just say, okay, well, that's all for you, and that's some investment fund, and that's someone else. But what's in it for me? So you have to make something. What's in it for the people?
And that's this type of the thinking and the doing also fits very much the founders, entrepreneurs, and startups way of be successful.
Yes.
There is not one single way to go to the market, to find the niche, to find the needs of clients. It's mostly like hard daily life to make the tests, what fits the client's needs, what should be the price, what should be the further development of the products, services, and so on. That the same is needed to, if we would like to be successful in the city level, that some trials, tests, pilots are needed to test which solution and creativity of a local society, and invited experts and invited new members of the society, because the city was grown on the immigrants, we could say, coming from Germany, from different parts of Poland. As you see the statistics, that before the Second World War, that was 34% of Jewish population here, around 25 Germans, around this 30 Polish, and around about 10 Russians and others, and that was create the success story of the city. And as you said, the most successful city in the world now, there are those which are most cosmopolitan. That's like in Germany, Stuttgart as a good example, because it's a twin city and sister city of Łódź. London, we could say there is a multinational agglomeration of we could say mixture. I learned that New York is so successful, we could say, from the business point of view, because from Andrzej Krakowski, who is the city college professor, said that in the campus during the students' time you could find more than 112 languages that people speaking, and they're inspiring each other based on their own experience from the past, exchange the information, what is the challenge in the different places over the world, and maybe finding the way to be more competitive, more innovative than others to fulfill the local needs. And that are the things that is so crucial for further development, to attract the people which will be not only the workers in the corporates, but will start the business, be entrepreneurs, and develop the new Lodzermensch, as we learn, style of building the future.
Yes, and I think for that companies need to focus not just on their ESG, the sustainability goals, and the carbon footprint. These things are all important. The health, the HR departments talk about their health and well-being of employees. And sometimes it feels like they all have to copy what the other ones are saying, but do they really mean it enough? The reason I say that is I think that we have to remember that every single person is a customer of every single business, and the funds that are used and invested by businesses, buying other businesses, this is the money of Joe Public in the street. So I think it needs to be higher on the agenda that jobs for people and maintaining jobs is important, because at the end of the day, if we don't do that now, as more and more technology moves on for the future and jobs are replaced, people need to feel, hang on, okay, that I'm going to benefit from that. That's going to make my job easier, but I still have a certain standard of living and income. And I think that will become a trend where people need to say, we're focusing, it is not just shareholders, because at the end of the day, the shareholders are in reality are often indirectly Joe Public and their pension funds, but it's the pension funds and people who are controlling it, and certain people along the way sitting on large flows of money that can do very well, which is fine. I'm not anti that at all, but I think you need to bring everyone with you. And let's not just forget, because the second you have too many haves, and not but there's even more have-nots, that's when you start having this imbalance. And I think there's always a fair way in the middle, so that people can do well, and that is certainly, you know, I'm probably more conservative than anything else, but I believe you have to be fair and not forget that people need a roof over their heads, they need hope, they need to feel I'm doing this for something, and not that I'm getting into a hopeless situation where in the future I'm never going to be able to buy anything, I'm never going to do anything, will I have a job?
Yeah,
it's a constant worry and gloom. Whereas if you remove that from them, then they suddenly become very relaxed, they become creative, they try things, they do things, some will work, some won't work. Then they'll cooperate with others more and get things done for the better. And that's what I think can happen. I think that can happen in a place like this, at a time like this. It's at a crossroads. It's at a moment in time where, you know, you've got this celebration of 600 years, and I think, you know, there are certain bold initiatives that can be tried, so that see what resonates with people, and they think, oh, well, that appeals to me, I'd like to be part of that. And then they can still go and live in other parts of the world. It shouldn't be saying, no, you just come to Łódź and you stay there and that's it. No, but I can come back here because I've got part of something I've been, because I've come to help and been here for a while. But I can go and do other things as well. So that's what I think. You know, some of the opportunities is this.
I think to summarize that first of all, what is important, that we need to shift the trends as we discussed, because that until now, from the transformation time, the Łódź losing the citizens. And let's do something, not hope, do something to shift the trends that the population will grow from the 600th anniversary. Let's make those dates important for shifting the trends and starting the new prosperity of the city through the incorporating the all possible contacts, because if that we create the proper atmosphere, that we try to change and we doing the things, we testing the things to create the best possible innovative way of developing the city in this part of the world. I think with the era of the mobile phones, internet, will be much more easier to attract the people that in the 18th century, when they come, there was no mobile phones, no internet, and the skilled people was joining the opportunities created here. And so let's create the opportunities ecosystem for startups, funders, and all skilled people needed to transform the city into a prosperous one.
I absolutely agree, and I think the opportunity goes even bigger than that. Why? I think the opportunity is to show the way to other communities in other cities, not just in Poland, but elsewhere. Say, hang on, if we've got places that are not so attractive and run down, especially in this time of hybrid working, if we can get this cooperative spirit where people think, well, we need a whole range of people in our communities, we need to bring them here, they've all got to do well. How do we do that? How do we cooperate? What we have with the modern technology and social media is a way of coordinating resource and activity more efficiently. We need to cut away red tape that sometimes presents that. Of course you need health and safety and rules and laws and so on, but if you let people get stuff done, they will. And if you can show that it can be done, then you've got the opportunity for the Łódź model to be applied elsewhere. People say, well, they were pretty innovative, they were pretty clever, look what they've done. So people are talking, I hear so much talk, and I've been involved and seen people talking about smart cities all the time. Look, there's a chance for Łódź to be a very smart city, but smart in the sense of what they do, the approaches they take, and really try things that work. It's the small steps. If you facilitate so people can do little things, it all adds up. When lots of people are doing positive things and helping each other, you'll find that they will collaboratively work together anyway. You'll start something, and that I think could really happen here.
Yeah, and also for me, the smart city mostly means the smart citizens. City have creative, innovative entrepreneurs, and changing the daily life and creating the better place to live for next generation. And this is crucial in the smart city for me, because that's the bricks and the buildings not change our lifestyle. Only the people cooperating and jointly the citizens could change the cities, and let's do something that will change the trends of decreasing the population towards increasing the prosperity of the city for the next 600 years, hopefully, with the prospects that the city will use the location as advantage and to develop probably as a twin cities with Warsaw and as an important place on the map of Europe.
Yes,
and not only on
I
Europe.
think you have a really good opportunity, given the student startup population here, to attract more. And it's not just attracting them, but you have to facilitate, you have to help them when they're here. It's helping them with what they're doing and helping them with where they're living. I think then they can also, Warsaw's an hour and a half away. They can go there. There should be a base for them to go there. It's just like with the Soho House, where we have that now. I'm just a member, but we have outlets and places, great facilities all over the world that have grown up now from our one little place and our ethos of just there were just we I remember in '64, and then we got up and cut it at 400, and we just had a great community. We thought, well, this can expand, this can expand, this can expand. And that happens with both, it's the human interaction and creativity that is engendered, that is sort of facilitated. And people also work. They find a way of working in these places. They turn up with their laptops, they do that, they meet. It's stuff meaningful stuff that they can then follow up on. And that has happened, and that will continue to happen. So it's this can-do attitude, but I've learned this through experience and just doing stuff over my life. But if you're doing that in a cooperative way with a whole bunch of people, and they've got the means to do that, and you've made it easy for them, then they will come here. Because there's a lot of people that maybe have worked could be startups elsewhere, and it hasn't quite worked, not through a fault of their own. We have our own views about why that could be done better, but they could then think, well, actually, there's somewhere I could come here, because one, there's a great scene for me to work in and participate in, but they've made it really easy because I've almost been given for a while a place to live. And in time I can, sort of buy rent, if you like, fractional ownership that can be transferred later. There are all sorts of innovative ways that we could do this. But by doing that, then that is how there'll be a demand to refurbish, not to make a huge speculative buck in a ridiculous way. That's a mistake, but it needs to be done so you create with the real estate you have, that it was otherwise just sits there, not just doing nothing, but it's actually a health and safety, a liability, if you like, an eyesore, a danger. You suddenly think, well, let's look at it that way. How do we help? Let's get people and teams of people who are all going to cooperate to get this done, refurbished. We have teams of people we can attract to do that, and the incentive is simple. You're going to get one, or 50% of one, or something, and they go, that works for me, and I can still go back to wherever I'm working and come back, and in the future I'll have something. So, and because let's remember, we all get old, and people forget that sometimes. They just think, I'm young now, and so on and so forth. And the elderly need to be looked after in the future, because it's in everyone's interest. Everyone's going to get old, everyone's going to have elderly relations, and they'll, guess what, surprise, surprise, it'll happen to them one day too. And so it just means everyone needs a place to be, to work, to thrive, a roof over their head, a place to live, healthy existence. We've got lovely countryside round here. People will do things if you let them and help them.
Let's say there is a time to change this place in one of the best places to live for the people for the next 600 years.
Exactly, and
that
will be told out in the things where the happiness. It won't just be the people in Denmark, which I know well, and I know Malmö and Sweden, and they'll say, well, actually, the people who live there are pretty happy. Some have got very successful and wealthy, and if that is what they want to be judged by. But even the secret is the whole range of people are happy. They coexist well, and that is what's important. And I believe there's an opportunity for that here.
Okay, Alister, I think we have very good discussion, and I would like to thank you very much for coming to Łódź in maybe not so pleasant weather conditions, but I hope...
It's a very warm atmosphere, and my pleasure to come here.
I would like to say that the spirit of the city, entrepreneurial and Lodgermensch still exist, and hopefully we will have opportunity to talk further and to do join projects together. And for memory of this day, I would like to give you the present to remind you, and I hope you know the person. And there is the one of the biggest, we could say, assets of the city is a film school.
Yes.
And the whole production of the movies and all of this entertainment industry.
Yes.
And I hope there is another angle which could be explored, but there is next time. But please take the...
Thank you very much indeed. The film school was very, very, very impressive, and I really enjoyed visiting it. There's no doubt that so much has been achieved in the Polish film industry, and I think a great deal more can be achieved. I really believe that there's an opportunity for film studio space here and film studio activities, having been involved and researched into that sector in the UK some years ago. So thank you very much indeed.
Yeah,
Real
that's a pleasure. And that London School of Films and Arts is at the same first 10 like the Łódź Film School, most of the time as the first one over the world, and there is for sure one of the biggest assets we have in the city, which should be explored, but that will be the next opportunity to have a great discussion with you.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.